Okay, welcome to the Venus Flytrap. My name is Dr. Stephen Paul Edwards, and I am going to be your host for this amazing journey that we're going to embark on together. Again, another amazing journey. Well, all right, so Venus Flytrap, that was the book. It is the book, right? It's actually a series of books. I know some of you got through the first and you're like, wow, that was amazing. Is there another? Yes, it's out now, right? Book two. So the Venus flytrap, the relationship I had with Tamaz is really a catalyst, right? So I spent my whole life on this journey, as we all have, right? We think we know where we're going. Sometimes we don't, but we know we're going somewhere. And I was heading in the direction of disaster, of a toxic relationship, which awakened me to a whole new level of thinking, believing, and experiencing life. So it's a catalyst, right? It's a funny story for sure. It's a romantic story, yes. It's tragic, yes. It's enlightening, yes. It's sexy for sure, right? If you look at the cover, it looks like you know, an erotic romance, which it was, to a large degree. Um, but it was so much more. And like I said, the experience was a mirror of me. It was a chance for me to look at myself in a new way, to see things about myself that I'd either lost, forgotten, or judged in myself. Um, so that I had to come to a point in life where I either looked at it, accepted it, owned it, and moved to another level, hopefully a higher level of awareness and being in the world. And so that's what happened. So this whole thing is not about the Venus flytrap book per se. That's a part of the mosaic. There's so much more to it as we're getting to now, and we talk about the philosophy of being a heartist and practicing heartism and recognizing, as I've said many times, that nothing happens to us, everything happens for us. And so we're going to get into a little bit, as you can see the background here, there's all these pictures of sacred geometry, what they mean and how they support us in our life and how they help us grow as a human being into a more spiritual being. So that said, we've got a lot to get through again today. So let's get going. Let's get started.
A tailored suit in a London rain. He built an empire to mask the pain. A self-made man with a heart and heart, watching the world from a place apart. Then she walked in like a sudden blade, in the midnight heat where the shadows played. A fallen heiress with a rebel soul, ready to take back all control. She lived by no rules but her own desire, wrapping his life in a ring of fire. An international ghost of a golden age, stepping back onto the center stage. Oh, the Venus flytrap.
Okay, so if we go back to the beginning of the book, I was just going through my fourth divorce. Okay, we have to talk about that, right? Because listen, you got to let go of judgment. It was happening for me. Remember? Yeah, judgment's not good. It's going to hold you down. And I don't like being judged. So there you go. All right, so I'm going through my fourth divorce. And I said this before, people would say to me, you've had four marriages. Uh-huh. Yeah, okay. Well, what was wrong with all these women? Well, as you know, women are crazy. I'm just kidding. So I would say, look, four marriages, and all those four marriages, there's only one constant, me. So it was about me, wasn't it? Well, it takes two to tango. But bottom line is, I was creating it, right? So why? And I've thought about this for a long time. Trust me. So initially, I was convinced that it was because I like to run away. Not that I like to run away, but I do, right? Because I started doing that when I was a kid, from home, running from home, because the environment I was in that was toxic, right? I was being gaslit, I was being controlled, I felt like it was in a straitjacket, I couldn't move, I had no voice. Typical things that kids experience, right? Although we don't know that as kids, we think every other kid's got a great life and everything's perfect for them, and we're the ones that have got these parents from hell, whatever you want to call it, right? And we're going through this trauma, but we keep it to ourselves, it makes it even worse, right? Because you got no one to talk to about it. And I think I told this story before that every night before when I went to bed, I had to bang my head on the pillow until I was exhausted, and then I'd fall asleep. And that was the only way I could get to sleep. I couldn't get to sleep any other way. I know it's crazy, which is may have something to do with the fact when I was 16, I was put in an insane asylum, right? And I've talked about this, getting electroconvulsive therapy and all these different things that happened in my life. And we've talked about why they happened for me, even though I obviously couldn't see that at the time. And you can't see that when you're a kid, right? You have no way of being able to relate to this is happening for me, right? So I get to this point where I've gone through all these patterns in my life. I've gone through these marriages, and really, while I would say for a long time, I would get overwhelmed in these marriages for whatever reason. And then because I was a runner, I'd run away, leave the marriage, right? But also, what I've come to realize is I wasn't just running away, I was running to. I was running towards. What was I running towards? I was running towards myself. I was looking for myself. And you go, Stephen, you're right there. I know, but I didn't know that then, right? But I didn't know I was looking for myself. I knew I was looking for something and I wasn't sure what it was. So sometimes we can judge ourselves, right? And we can say, well, I suck, I'm terrible, I'm useless, I'm not worthy. But does that support you? And what I mean by that is the things that we do in our lives, why? Why are we doing those things? Why are other people doing the things they're doing? Because they're all looking for something, right? And you would say they're looking for love. I would agree, right? And who are you? You're love made real, right? That's who you are. You are a part of, not the whole love, but you're part of love. The universe. What is God? God is love, right? Yeah, which is why it becomes difficult when you hear about how God wants to punish us, right? Loves us unconditionally, but it's going to stick you in purgatory, right? Or hell. What? This is a different God, right? But the bottom line is we're either running towards or we think we're running from something, trying to find who we really are, right? So I've been through these marriages and I've been on this journey looking for myself. And then I meet Tamaz, right? Coming out of my fourth marriage, I'm exhausted. My pattern was I'd get out there and I'd work hard, but doing things because it was a distraction, right? It was a way to distract myself from my past. So I didn't have to look back. I didn't have to look at the pain. I didn't have to deal with the pain. You know anybody like that? Maybe intimately? Anyway, so I was running away or running towards, either running away from myself or running towards myself, maybe both, right? And so I would build things up and then I would let them collapse because I'd be so exhausted, I'd be burned out, I didn't have any energy left to keep the plate on the pole. Remember those? You seen that? Maybe dating myself a little bit. You remember when they used to have the guy that was like it was on TV and they used to have all the bamboo poles and the plates on top and he had to run around keeping them all going? Yeah, well, if you have a million of those, then some of them are going to start to drop and smash, right? And that was what would happen. The whole thing would come down, and then I would have to heal. And what I mean by that is not necessarily healing from the inside, changing the patterns that had brought that about in the first place, but just literally healing my body, right? Getting my energy back, coming back to um, coming back to some kind of balance. Anyway, the point is, I would keep doing that over and over again, and it's exhausting. And you, I just can't keep doing this, right? And then the universe hears that because that sound, that speak, that voice, that words, and thoughts, and actions are vibratory fields of energy that are creating, right? Creating what we asked for. And what was I asking for? I was asking to get over all this, right? And so the universe said, okay, what is going to distract him? What is he going to have what he thinks is no choice but to get into? And then bring someone, that somebody, into his life that he cannot resist and that is going to kick his ass, right? And show him who he is being and the parts of himself that he needs to heal, right? By looking at that person, those events, as mirrors of himself. Now, pretty deep, right? Well, the universe is pretty deep. Look out there. How deep is that? It's deep, right? So I pull her into my life, right? I attract her into my life. And boy, was she attractive, right? I literally The universe knew exactly what I needed. They knew what she needed to look like. They knew what she needed to be like, the whole thing, right? So she came into my life and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is all my prayers answered. She's tall. I love tall. She's 5'11" her bare feet. She's a former international supermodel, right? So she's not anymore because she's grown up, right? I thought. Anyway, so this incredible woman just comes into my life and I'm completely obsessed. And then that process begins. It starts out, we go on this incredible first date, right? And we meet online, and I'm trying to get her to go on a date with me. And it's an international website, right? But she lives down the road. I mean, what are the chances? I know. There was no other way, right? It was going to happen. So as I'm texting her backwards and forwards, I try to get a date with her, right? And it doesn't go very well, right? So at first, she agrees to go for coffee with me. I know. It's kind of a put down. But anyway, she agrees to go for coffee with me. One day she says, okay, let's go for a coffee. And I go, yes, right? The next day she canceled. No, right? So then finally I get her to go on a date with me. And I'm thinking, I got to tie this thing down, right? I can't let her not, cancel again, right? So I'm texting, I'm thinking, we're texting backwards and forwards, thinking, I got to tie this down. I'm going to tell her indirectly that I'm going to buy her flowers. I mean, a woman can't cancel a guy that's going to buy her flowers, right? I hope not. Okay, you're not being very supportive here. Well, anyway, I say to her in a text, what's your favorite flower? And she texts back, bird of paradise. And it really is my favorite flower as well. I know, mirrors, right? So I texted her back and I go, nuh-uh, mine too. It's a bit expensive though. So what's your second favorite? I mean, who says that, right? Who would say that? I'm joking with her, but anyway. So, and then she texted back instantly. It was almost like she was texting me before I'd finished the text myself. It came back, Venus flytrap. Now, whose second favorite flower, second favorite is the Venus flytrap? Well, it was Tomaz's, right? So she named herself and she named the book in that instant. And in that instant, I had that ominous feeling, that intuitive feeling. What did it say? Whoa, that's dark, right? I didn't even know what a Venus flytrap was. So I looked it up and I went, yeah, that is dark. It's dangerous. But sometimes we like danger, don't we? It's exciting. It's mysterious. She's beautiful. Okay, let's go with that, right? So I override. That's what we tend to do. We override our intuition. And we then experience the consequences, right? So intuition can be a shortcut and save you a lot of pain, of agony, and experiences. But sometimes we override it because we need the lesson. We need the learning, right? And so I overrode it. So the next thing, we go on this incredible day. At the time I'm living in this mansion with a sex room. I've got a Rolls Royce. I've got a Bentley convertible, Bentley GTC. I've got all kinds of toys, right? I was making a lot of money, but I was doing it with doing what I love to do. I was speaking and doing events that were helpful and transformational on all different levels. And I was traveling all the time. I was also all exhausted because of that, right? So as we get to all this later in the story, but I was exhausted and I wasn't enjoying the fruits of my labor because it was all so much and I had to travel all the time, so I didn't get to enjoy it. I had a butler, right? He got to enjoy the house. He was there every day, right? Loving it, loving the pool, the views, and everything, right? Kind of funny. But the point is, at that time, I was just burned out. And so I was going to enjoy the house and I was going to enjoy Tomas. And I did for a minute, right? And then the whole thing started to go sideways. And that's when I learned all these incredibly powerful lessons, that I was codependent, that I couldn't set boundaries, that I had no self-worth to speak of, right? And the confidence that I would show on the stage was bravado. And that I had a lot of healing to do that I'd never done from my childhood, right? because I've been running away my whole life. Okay, so to share some funny experiences in this whole thing, right? So Tomas was very sexually open, more so than me, right? Um, and so, it's usually men are accused of grooming women. She probably groomed me anyway, although I was somewhat um, incorrigible. But one of the things that Tomas was actually bisexual, right? She might have been trisexual or quadruple, so I don't know. But anyway, um, and she would want me to, have sex with her friends. She wanted to have, a girlfriend come over and spend time with both of us having sex. And most guys would be going, nah, that's freaking amazing, man. It was amazing. You had a mansion, you had a sex room, you had all these cars, you had this beautiful woman. What was wrong with you? Right? Okay. It's a good question. And as we'll see a lot. So, anyway, but I wasn't into that. I wasn't into having threesomes or any of that, right? Why? Well, it's a good question. Well, some guys would say, because he's an idiot, right? Maybe. But there's a lot of other reasons that can come up. I didn't want anybody else to be there. I wanted it to be as have some level of intimacy with me and her. And also, as my therapist told me, it's probably because you like to be in control and you thought you might lose control in that situation. And that's probably closer to the truth, right? But the bottom line is she would want me to do that and I didn't want to do it. I'd also had an experience when I was younger, which is a long time ago. That's not funny. So when I was younger and I was in love with an incredible girl. She was kind, she was sweet, she was real, she had depth, um, she was beautiful, and she worked really hard. She was a nurse, right? I know doctors and nurses. I know, I get it. Anyway, so she broke up with me. It was a huge issue for me. I don't know. As I remember it, as I recall, that was the first time anybody had broken up with me. But more than anything, it's because I loved her, right? And I was really hurt. Anyway, I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but it was pretty funny that she came back. She came back to me. She said, I made a big mistake. But the challenge was she came back to me when I just met another girl that I fell in love with. And I had this feeling I couldn't trust going back again. Anyway, so what I did, which was stupid, I had a friend who came over to the UK from America, and we had a threesome, right? Bad idea, right? It broke whatever was left of our relationship, shattered it. And so that was painful for me. And I never wanted to feel that pain again, right? So I never wanted to do something like that because I felt it would destroy the relationship I was in. So these are some of the patterns. But anyway, I wanted to tell you this funny story that happens that is related to this, right? So, and this is like a teaser for book 2 a little bit, because in book 2, everything changes, right? So Tamaz, probably no surprise, she gets thrown out of the community that I lived in, right? I lived in a beautiful gated community, a beautiful home, and she gets thrown out. She's not allowed to be in there ever. If she's seen in there, they're going to call the police. I'm like, you got to be thinking, what the hell did she do? We'll get to that later, but here's the point. Obviously, I couldn't put her on the street, so I had to put her up in hotels. And she kept getting thrown out of the hotels. Yeah, she's wild. She's totally wild. But I love that about her too. She was a little crazy. She was really crazy. And I love crazy because I'm crazy too, right? So the point is, I would go away on a weekend doing my events, right? And she would always like go off and party, right? And do things that she wanted to do. And very often get involved with another guy or another girl or both or whatever. So one time I come back and I have to go pick her up. I have to go pick her up in the middle of the night outside a local pharmacy because the people that she'd been with didn't want me to come and pick her up home to identify who they were or whatever. So I go pick her up. Anyway, we're driving back to the house and she's saying, well, we didn't do anything. We just hang out. We just did drugs, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. So she says, well, look, you leave me in these hotels and you go away and I'm all on my own and I got to go have fun. And you never take me anywhere. So whatever ever happened with Tamaz, right? It was never her fault. She would start off saying, I'm really sorry about this. It'll never happen again. And then within 30 seconds, it was going to be, but you did this and you did that. And if you hadn't done that, that would have. Anyway, that was her MO. So I said, okay, all right, well, fair enough. You're right. I do come home tired sometimes and I don't want to do anything. So we'll change that. I'll take you out for dinner or a nice night out or whatever it is going to be. So I did. So I pick her up at this hotel. I'm in the Rolls Royce, right? So nice. Yeah, that's not bad. So when I pick her up in the Rolls Royce and we go to the Ritz Carlton, which we went to quite often, it was one of our favorite haunts. And so we go there for dinner. And we're sitting outside on the veranda. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful evening. The sun is just going down. And she gets up from where we're sitting and said, I just got to go to the bathroom. Okay. So anyway, about 10 minutes later, she comes walking back and she's got her new bestie, right? Tracy. So this really pretty blonde girl is with her now. And Tomas introduces and said, Stephen, I just met Tracy in the bathroom. And I said, oh, well, great. Hello, Tracy. She said, hi. Yeah, I said, okay, well, and Tomas says, well, she's just moved here. She was in a relationship. It went all wrong. So she's starting over again here. And Tracy goes, yeah, I'm trying to get away from the life that I had and this person. So I came here to Sarasota. I was out with a friend from work. So we came out for a drink. She's a lot older than me. So we didn't have a lot in common. We were just leaving. She'd left. I was just going to the bathroom before we left. And I met Tomas. And she's amazing, right? Because Tomas is amazing, right? And she's got this incredibly magnetic personality. And she could pick up a guy or a girl. I mean, I'm not kidding. And if you read the book, you know this, right? She could pick up a guy or a girl in like 60 seconds. And that's not an exaggeration. It sounds like it is, but it really isn't. So anyway, so she's met this girl. And Tomas is like a chameleon. She can be whatever she needs to be to attract Venus flytrap, the fly that she wants to devour. So this girl is already freaking hypnotized, right? And she's saying, oh, I'm so happy that I've met Tomas. Now I've got a friend while I'm here and blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. So, and I knew where this was going to go. You probably guessed it too, right? So Tomas is kind of looking at me like, what do you think? And I'm looking at her like, do not take advantage of this girl, right? She's going through a tough time. The last thing she needs is having a traumatic experience with you, right? So anyway, the next thing, Tomas is like setting this up. So she says, well, she has beautiful hair, don't you think, Stephen? I'm going, what do you think I'm going to say? What can I say? Tomas had a way of putting you in a straitjacket that you couldn't say anything, but exactly what she wanted you to say. And I go, oh, yeah, it's beautiful. And then she's like, and look at her teeth. I'm like, what is this, a horse? What are we doing here, right? And then she says, and look at her breasts. And she's saying to her, she says to Tracy, are those real? Oh, yes. Yeah, they're real, okay, how am I going to get out of this, right? Most guys would be saying, can we just go to the next base now? So anyway, and then Tomas says, oh, look at her legs, Stephen. Her legs are beautiful. And then Tracy's moving, lifting her skirt up and showing me her freaking legs. I'm like, oh my God, this is killing me, right? So then Tomas says, we need to go powder our noses, right? So she takes us to the bathroom. And you know what she's going to be saying, right? They come out, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes later, I don't know what it was. But anyway, they come out and they're giggling like schoolgirls, right? Because they know what they're going to do. So Tomas comes back and says, we have a proposal. And I'm trying to joke my way out of the situation and it gets nowhere, right? She's really determined, right? So she says, I think what we'd like to do is go somewhere more intimate and then we can have some fun together. So finally I get up, I walk up from where I'm sitting around the table past Tomas and I said, can I have a word? So we go inside the hotel and there is an alcove outside the bathrooms, right? So I go stand in the alcove and then Tomas comes round the corner and she's like, what the fuck are you doing? You're spoiling the whole thing. I said, Tomas, I'm not into it. I don't want to do that. Oh, and then she's like, Tomas puts her hand on her head like she's talking to a child, right? Oh my God, what's wrong with you, right? I said, look, what are we going to do? Get a room? We're at the Ritz Carlton. We got no bags. We go to check in. What are they going to say? Where's your bag? We're not going to go to the reception, you idiot. You're going to go to the reception, book a room, and then we'll come up. Of course, she'd figure that out, right? And I'm like, I'm running out of excuses here. I said, do you know how much it is for a room here? She said, shut up. If you wanted to do something, you wouldn't even be thinking about how much it was. I'm like, okay, caught out again. So I said, Charles, I just don't want to do it. She said, listen, here's what we'll do then. We'll get her in the Rolls Royce. I think she lives near here, right? We'll get her in the Rolls Royce. She'll love the Rolls Royce. We'll take her home and she'll invite us in. Simple. I go, Tomas, I'm not doing it. Hi, listen, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're here to make a public service announcement. If you're enjoying this conversation, which I know you are, right? Because if you say no, you probably lie about other things too, right? So if you're enjoying this, which I really do hope that you are, please take a moment to follow or hit the subscribe button and the like button so you never miss an episode. Let's get back to the conversation. I said, I'm going. She said, well, I'm staying. I said, okay, fine, right? So I walk out and the valet comes and he's bringing the car around, right? I get in the car and just then she comes running out. I'm in the car at this point, right? So I'm saying to the valet, it was like a scene out of Casino, right? Where, what's her name? I can't think of her name right now, but Sharon Stone played the part, right? Is it Sandy or something? And Robert. Anyway, they're coming out and she's fighting and so it's very embarrassing, right? And so it's the same kind of situation. And she comes running out and then she jumps in the car. Now, Rolls Royce has suicide doors. How the hell does she pull that door back and jump in without breaking her neck? I mean, she should have been like a stunt woman or something. Anyway, so she's in the car now and I'm driving off. And she's going on and on and on about how stupid it is, right? And a couple of weeks earlier, we'd been in Vegas and she'd been so out of, what do you call it? Out of control. I finally had to leave her there, right? So I left her in Vegas. Yes, I did. I know what you're thinking. Fine, judge me. I left her there. I left crazy in crazy world, right? I mean, I got her home, but, for a while she was like left there with nothing. Anyway, trying to teach her a lesson, right? Trying to set a boundary, which was impossible with the crazy Arabian horse. Anyway, we're driving down this road, heading towards the hotel. But we're, I don't know, 2-3 miles from the hotel, right? And so finally I said, Tomas, shut up. If you keep going, I'm going to drop you here and you can walk back to the hotel. And because of what happened, she kind of thought, well, he actually might, right? So then she's sitting there with her arms folded, pissed off, right? So I know at that point, retribution is going to be coming, and I know it's going to come soon. I get back to the hotel. She gets out of the car, and she slams the door, right? And she walks into the hotel. And I remember when the doors opened and she walked in, I just thought to myself, God, I love that woman, right? It's what happened, right? So then I drive off, I screech out, right? I didn't know where I was going, but I thought it looked cool. Probably didn't. She was gone anyway. So then I thought, you know what I'll do? I wanted to be somewhere with someone who didn't know all this bullshit was going on, right? So I don't judge. I went to an ex-girlfriend's house, right? Now, yes, she was a previous girlfriend, but we stayed friends afterwards, and we stayed good friends, and there were good reasons why we decided not to be together anymore because it just didn't work out with the traveling that we both had. Anyway, the bottom line is I drive over to her house, right? So when I get there, I park on the grass at the side of the house and then turn up the ignition, press the start. And I'm looking then for the fob, to open the car and start the engine. It's not there. She's taking it. So she took the car. So when you take the fob, you can drive until you turn the engine off. But once you turn the engine off, you can't turn it on again until you have the fob. It won't start. So now I'm stuck here at my ex-girlfriend's house, parked on the lawn. No way to get the car started. Okay, what am I going to do? Well, I got to go and tell my ex that I'm here, right? Because she comes out and sees the car parked there and I'm not here. What's she going to be thinking? Right? So I go to the house. She opens the door and she's like, what the hell are you doing here, right? And I said, well, Um, Funny you should ask, right? I said, I thought I'd just come see you. Uh huh. Yeah, right. She said, well, it's a good job my boyfriend isn't here. I thought, oh, yeah. I said, I'm sorry. I never even thought about that. She went, yeah, well, that's just like you, isn't it? She said, well, come in. So I go in and I have to give her the Reader's Digest version of everything. I'm not going to get into all the bullshit about the community and all that, right? So anyway, I finished telling her that basically I don't have a car because I don't have the key fob. And so she says, so wait a minute. You're telling me that you're parked on my lawn in a Rolls Royce and you can't start it and she's got your fob? I go, yeah. She goes, I want to meet this woman. She sounds amazing. And I said, well, I'm not sure if you do, but if you did, we'd probably end up having a threesome. But anyway, here's the thing. I have to go back and get the fob off her so I can get my car starting and I can get home in it later. So I said, I'll get an Uber, I'll come back. So then I have to Uber to the hotel where I've got to stay now. I'm paying for the room and everything, right? So I get in there and I get to the room and I knock on the door. And of course, she's like, who is it? I said, listen, it's me. Open the door. So, of course, she drags her feet to get to the door, right? Finally, she opens the door and she's pretending, I'm assuming she's pretending, that she's on the phone with her mother, right? And so she's setting me up in case she wants to do something to me, right? Like call the police for whatever reason, maybe I've done nothing, just so she can, right? So she's saying to my mother, I don't know what is wrong with him. He just gets so angry. Right? And I'm just standing there, like peaceful, waiting for her to finish. So anyway, she puts the phone down. What's up? I said to Mars, look, you got to give me the key fob, right? She goes, what key fob? I go, come on. I said, listen, I got to go get the car. It's parked on the side of the road. Where? Right. So as soon as you open your mouth, you are going to be put in a straitjacket very, very quickly. I go, what do you mean where? It's a friend's house. Hmm. Who's the friend? now, now you know I'm not going to get that key fob back, right? I go, Tomas, just give me the key fob. I'll go get the car. Yeah, I don't have it. I don't know what you're talking about. Right? So finally, I have to leave. Right? She says, come sit down. I said, okay. All right. Well, she said, well, listen, I told Tracy that, you were just a little, you got a lot of stress right now. And I said, we'd do it again later. We'd do it another time that she could come over to the house. So I know now that that's going to happen. And then and I couldn't say anything because I was trying to get the key fob, right? And if I'd said, no, that's never going to happen, no key fob. If I don't say anything, then basically that's an agreement because she could say, I told you she was going to come over because Tracy would just arrive and the door front, Tomas would open the front door and she'd go, oh, Tracy, good to see you. Stephen's been excited that you were coming over. What am I going to say now? No, I didn't want to come over. I can't say that. So she's very good at making traps. Venus flytrap, right? So basically, I had to leave, right? I had to leave the hotel, go back to my girlfriend's house, and I have no key fob. So what I have to do, I have to call the what do you call it? The trucking company, the 24-hour trucking company. So they will come and pick up the rolls and take it to the dealership. I have to buy another key fob, which is about $500, and then I have to wait for it for 2 hours. So me and my ex chat and talk. She's laughing, right? I'm having a good old time. Anyway, but I did not have sex, and I didn't ask for it, or whatever. No, I'm just kidding. So I leave right at the end of the night, and then I have to get in an Uber. Right? So what's the what do you call it? I just pick up. I don't know what you call it, right? You know what it is with the 24-hour recovery service, right? They're winding, winching the Rolls Royce onto the flatbed, and I'm getting an Uber, right? So I get home, I'm in bed, I'm lying there alone, right? And I'm thinking, let me think about this, right? So I started the evening, with a Rolls Royce. I go pick up my beautiful girlfriend, take her to the Ritz-Carlton for dinner. She brings out another beautiful girl, and they all want to have sex with me. So now I've got two girls. I'm at the Ritz-Carlton with my Rolls Royce. Next thing I know, I got no girlfriends. I go see my ex-girlfriend. I didn't have sex with her or anything to eat with any of them. I lost my Rolls Royce, and now here I am. I'm about the only person I know that could pull that off in one evening, right? So that's a funny example of the crap that we go on, right? Eventually, she didn't want to, in the beginning, she wanted to steal everything from me, right? She wanted to get me arrested, put in jail, so she could get a what do you call it? A restraining order. I wouldn't be able to get back to the house. She would have the house and sell everything. She'd done this many times. I didn't know that, right? So I almost lost my home within 2 weeks of dating her. She got me into a trap that I didn't see it coming. Now, after the police had come over and almost arrested me, but fortunately, my friend Jerry, who's in the book, had recorded her during the day. And eventually, we were able to get them to listen to the recording, and they really got the bigger picture. So I didn't get arrested. But they told me if they had arrested me, and that's what they were going to do, then I would have been put in jail. She would have got a restraining order, and I wouldn't have been able to get back in the house that fast. And she'd done this many times. Now you'd think after finding that out and going through that, at the end of the chapter, you're going, oh, man, whew, your friend saved your ass there. Thank God you're out of that relationship, right? And then you turn the page and you go, and he got back together? What is he, crazy? And I would say, yeah, probably. But here's the thing. If I had broken up with her, you wouldn't be enjoying this freaking story now, would you? Right? And I said to myself, look, I got a choice here, right? I could break up with her, right? Sure. And I could go back to a relatively normal life, right? Or there was an option here. Or I could stay with one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen, let alone dated in my life, who is crazy, fun, adventurous, sex addict, in a mansion, with a sex room, with all these toys. Just got to put up with some crazy. And I go, yeah, that's not even really an option, is it? Really? I'm just going to stay, right? So I did, until I didn't. And at some point, we'll get into that story as well. But I wanted to share with you just a little bit of how this all began and some of the things that happened, to give you a little bit of entertainment and a little bit of insight into how I was drawn into this because of my own addictions, because of my own flaws, because of my own patterns that I'd not healed in my life. I was sucked into it like a fly into a Venus flytrap. So the mirrors were profound, mirrors that I learned. So as I'm telling you all this, it's embarrassing, right? I mean, it is embarrassing because you're thinking, dude, you lost all credibility with me. Fine, that's okay. But it's real and it's raw and it's the honest truth. This happened, but it didn't happen to me. It happened for me. And so along with many, many things I learned about this, it was time for me to own my truth, to own who I really was at the time, who I was being, and recognition that the way I was living was not taking me in the direction that I truly wanted to go. It was taking me away from myself. I was going out and having this outward materialistic success, but I didn't feel successful. I didn't feel any more worthy than I did when I was a child, when I didn't have a voice. And I felt like it was in a straitjacket where I had to really live a life that wasn't true, trying to make people believe, make believe, and we live in a world of make believe, right? Make people believe that I was okay, that I was happy when I really wasn't. I was sad and alone, right? And so during the course of my life, I took all that with me. I took all that baggage with me. I took it into my relationships. I took it into my career, every area of my life, because these patterns are not just in our relationships. And our relationships are not just with our girlfriend, our boyfriend, our significant other, our husband, our wife. That relationship is everything. The relationship with society, relationship with your family, your relationship with money. People are so often telling me, man, why am I broke? Or why am I poor? Well, you're not poor. Poor is a state, broke is a temporary situation, right? Something we'll get into later. But we have to get these patterns resolved for those things to change. You can say, well, maybe I could figure it out myself. Maybe I could just, not do that anymore, not be drawn into those things. But you're working with resistance. It's like an elastic band, right? You can stretch it so far, but then what's going to happen? It's going to snap back, isn't it? And that's what happens to people when they get tired. They just can't pull it anymore. They're exhausted. They're burned out. That's when it all comes crashing down. So what you want is to be able to live your life according to a set of principles or a philosophy, right? That allows you to stay in the state that you want to be in, attract the people and person you want to attract into your life, to have an abundant energy, of abundant vibration inside so that you will attract the abundance in the material world, and it has no choice. Sounds so simple, and it is. It's just not easy because we get addicted to certain things. We can be addicted to being a victim. We can get addicted to telling people why everything is happening to us and not being open to looking at what part you played and how you pulled it into your life. But once you can take ownership of that, things change. So if you think that everything is happening to you, now you have a wound. People are hurting you, right? That's a wound. If you are committed to realizing, seeing with your real eyes, which are your feelings. Now, I know that's going to be controversial because what are we told? Don't trust your feelings. Yeah? Well, let's keep trusting our mind and let's see how that keeps going, right? So our feelings, yes, you can have negative feelings. Yes, you can have feelings that pulled you down. But that's part of the transformation. That's part of recognizing those patterns and healing them from when they occurred, probably most of the time when you're a child and you just kept repeating it. And then once you recognize that, you can see the mirror through your entire life. It's like, yeah, and you see where it began. And then you can change that beginning. I know, sounds weird, right? There are many ways, therapeutic ways, for you to go back into those situations and change the outcome. Just by realizing the pattern can help you not repeat it anymore. There's lots of different ways to change the patterns. That's not the issue. The first thing is the awareness that the patterns need to be changed and that you're creating these patterns. And so the only person that can change them is you, rather than thinking that somebody else can come into your life and do things to you, which means you have no control over it. And you just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. You decide. All right, so in the next episode, we're going to talk more about the vibrational part of it, right, and how that works. I'm going to show you some of these vibrational patterns that occur so that we recognize that vibration is important, that we're vibratory beings, and we're electromagnetic fields of energy. Why is that important? Because everybody is. And so what you start to realize is the energy, the vibration that you're projecting out into the universe is what will attract that person into your life. So you've heard the phrase, if you want to attract a different type of person, then be the person you want to attract. In other words, be the vibration that will draw them into your life. So you don't have to go out and pretend to be someone you're not. You don't have to have anything. You just have to create that vibration within yourself. And those people, that person, will be attracted to you like a magnet. I know. Who knew? Who knew? Well, apparently the ancients did. But unfortunately, along the way, somebody stopped passing the word along because they had an ulterior motive. And so the Venus flytrap can be anything. It could be money. It can be the society that we live in. It can be what we believe about money, right? So we're taught that time is money, right? You ever heard that? More than once? If you ask people walking down the street, not suggesting you would do that because I think you're a little bit crazy, but if you ask most people and you say, let me ask you a question, what word comes to you? If I say time is, what word comes to mind? Most people are going to say money, and it isn't. Time is not money. That is nonsense. It's not true, never been true. It's a lie, but it's a lie that people believe because they hear it so often that everybody else believes it, so they think it's true. It isn't. So we're going to get into what is time then? And what is money? Well, First of all, can you replace money? Somebody might have to think hard about that. Yes, you can. You do it all the time. If you have a job, you go to work, you get paid, you got money. You spend it. What do? You go back and make some more money. So you can replace money. Can you replace time? No, you can't. So which one is more valuable? Most people think that money is. How do we know that? Because they give up the time to get the money. But the wealthy don't. Huh. What do? I'm going to tell you. There are principles to creating external worth, but you first have to create the wealth inside you first. So we got to turn wealth inside out. I know. I love playing with words. I love getting myself and other people to see things differently. You see, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So we're going to do a lot of that. We're going to do a lot of revisiting, reminding, a lot of recognition, recognition, rethinking, changing our mind, changing the way we look at things, and seeing a whole new world. So I hope you found this entertaining. I know you did. You probably laughed at me. Well, I'm going to laugh at you at some point, right? It's important that we can laugh at ourselves as well as laugh at each other. And when I laugh at you, it's not going to be an evil laugh. Not a right? It's more going to be, we're going to laugh at ourselves together. See ourselves in a way that maybe we've never seen them before, but it's pretty funny. And I know you'll enjoy that too. Okay, well, today, funnily enough, is July the 1st. I know you're not going to be watching this on July the 1st, but it is. And in, what is it now, 3 days? This whole country is going to be celebrating 250 years of madness. 250 years of existence, 250 years of history. I don't know how old you are, but something tells me you're looking for something. Maybe you're looking for who you really are. Maybe you're looking for love. Maybe you're looking for all those things. And my hope is that you will join me on the journey, that we'll be travelers together. I'm not going to be ahead of you. I'm not going to be behind you. I'm going to be alongside you. And one of the keys to all this is really getting connected to our hearts. To live from the heart, to speak from the heart, and to be able to know if something is true because it's heartfelt. The center of our universe is your heart. Once you connect there, you connect to your intuition. Things just become easier and easier and easier. But to do that, we've got to raise our vibration. Aha! Coming back to that vibration thing. Yes, because all the energy that we create in trauma, all that's created in trauma, if we don't release it, if we don't get it out of the cells of our being, that negative energy is in the cells of our being, and it's lower vibrational. It's going to pull your vibration down. As you raise that vibration, you release that energy, then you feel things more clearly. You can express them more clearly. You become more connected to your intuition. And when you become more connected to your intuition and you build trust in that intuition, then life becomes you. And you are love made real in a physical body, looking to get home. And you know, home is an acronym, right? You know that, right? Home, Home, heaven on Mother Earth. So you can create that heaven, that blissful place here on earth. And that's what we call the rapture. And you can have an experience of rapture here on earth right now if you want. Well, we've got to get rid of some of that lower vibrational energy. But once we do that, holy heck, it's going to be good. You're going to enjoy it. So, for now, just remember that if you want to get the first 3 chapters of the book for free, which you should if you haven't already, it's an amazing book. Well, of course you're going to say that. No, I'm telling you, it's an amazing book. Listen, I don't get rich out of about buying a book or selling a book. It's not going to happen, right? But what will happen is you will become richer from reading the book because you'll see yourself in there. You'll recognize yourself in certain areas. That's what people tell me. And even if you don't, you're going to have fun because it's hilarious. It's a very wonderful, amazing, sexy, erotic story. It's a romance on steroids, right? And it's also tragic. So you're going to get all those experiences and you get to see it, read it before we put it into a movie or on Netflix. Isn't that cool? You'll be one of the first. And you get those first 3 chapters because once you've read 3 chapters, you're going to be hooked and you're going to want to get the rest. Yeah, I know. It's a little manipulative, but what are you going to do? And then if you think that there's something that you can get out of spending time with me, where I might be able to help you with some of these patterns because of my experience in spiritual counseling, personal development, and crazy toxic relationships, that I've learned a tremendous amount of wisdom, powerful wisdom, transformative wisdom that can definitely help you get to the next level of your life in whatever area you want to focus on. So if you go to the link that's going to be below, you can click on that and get a free complimentary 25-minute consultation with me, with moi. You can also get the link to our website, vft23.com. And there's a ton of stuff on there, free stuff. There's the coaching sessions on there. There's stuff about the book. There's stuff about me. There's stuff about Tomas. It's really cool. It's great. Well, you heard the song, right? There's all kinds of really cool stuff on there too. All right, so don't forget to hit subscribe. I know you hear that on every podcast. Why? Because we need you to subscribe. Why? Because then we can do more of this, reach more people in the world. And if you think this can help anybody you know, make sure you send them the link to our podcast, my podcast, our podcast. This is ours, right? And the website and the book and all that stuff. Share. If it's good for you, it's good for your friends and lovers. All right, so I think that's about it. Always remember to break bread. Sustain your body. Put good things into your body. Breathe, right? Give good breath. Really helps. Spread love. And pack light. One of the most important things is walk with heart. All right. Until next time. Also remember that nothing happens to you. Everything happens for you.
Let's go. Spiritual sparkle in a world of gray, finding the truth in the disarray. It's a raw confession of a life lived fast, breaking the chains of a heavy past, from the erotic spirit to the soul's rebirth, finding what a human life is really worth. Sex, lies, and the repercussions stay as we dance the final act away. Just a true story of a love so deep, promises that we could never keep. In the garden of the trap we lay, waiting for the break of a breath.